What can Star Citizen learn from FIFA? Now, they seem like two completely unrelated games, but there are quite a few similarities that I'll go through, and then I'll come to the point where Star Citizen can learn so much from FIFA. And as a hint, it's all about carrots and donkeys. Let's get into it. First up, it's worth saying there's probably not many people in the Venn diagram of Star Citizen and FIFA who fit in the middle like I do. I doubt there's anybody. Let me know if you are. So I've got an interesting perspective on this, and I think there are some interesting things that FIFA can teach Star Citizen. But first, let's get into the similarities. Both of these games are great at making money. Great's not the right word. Incredible. And actually, Star Citizen is nowhere near as good as FIFA. I'll put the stats up on the screen. Star Citizen has made a lot of money, but nowhere near as much as FIFA has. And obviously FIFA, football, soccer for our American friends, it's worldwide. There's lots and lots of players. It's not a niche game in some ways like Star Citizen is, but the numbers they put out every year are crazy. And a lot of it actually isn't to do with game sales. It's actually to do with loot boxes. So there's a game mode called Ultimate Team where you basically build your own team, get these playing cards effectively, and you open packs and you get new players. Star Citizen has been called a scam. It's not a scam, let's just put it clear. FIFA might be a scam because every year a new FIFA comes out, people spend money all the way through the year, and then a new FIFA comes out and all their progress is lost and they start again. And some people are spending thousands of pounds, hundreds of thousands of pounds or dollars, euros, whatever. It is a scam. It's just that people are on board and they enjoy it. So they're both great at making money. The next one, both of these games have been in development for a long time. Now Star Citizen, you can argue exactly how long, but it's been roughly since 2012 it was announced. That's a while. FIFA has obviously been in development since about 1993. And one of the similarities between the two games is that, and Star Citizen, Jared loves saying, iterative development, the idea that you build something and then you iterate and you make it better. And that basically completely sums up FIFA. FIFA, every year they release a new game, but they don't make big changes each year. There's small changes, iterative changes every year, and it gradually shifts over the year. So FIFA 19, 20 and 21 are very similar games in terms of the mechanics, and they just tweak things and they change the balance of things every year. The next similarity, and where we can actually learn from FIFA here, is that both games have very, very limited gameplay loops. Currently in Star Citizen's case, FIFA will always have very limited gameplay loops because we're just playing football over and over again. You can't change the game. There's nothing new to add. They try every year to add some friendlies in where you kind of have special things that happen, players get sent off and blah, blah, blah. Nobody's interested in that. People just want to play actual football / soccer. That is the game. And yet people play all year round. They play over and over again and they pour money into this thing. And why is that? And we'll come back to that in a minute. But with Star Citizen, we're also, obviously, I love to say this because it's a ridiculous statement to say, we're relatively early on in development in that the game is nowhere near feature complete. There's lots of things missing. The gameplay loops that we have in the game now are all limited and there's not many of them. So things like bounty hunting, mining, trading-ish. And so they're both games are in a similar position. Now, obviously, we are hoping and dreaming of a day when Star Citizen is full of much more than that. And the scope of the game is obviously massive. And yeah, there's definitely going to be more gameplay loops. But in the meantime, whilst we wait for things like salvage, which at this stage, salvage might never come. It just keeps getting pushed back, but it will eventually come. But whilst we wait for those things, what can we learn from FIFA? And here is where the meat of the video starts. And actually I should say vegetables because it is all about carrots and donkeys. You pop a carrot in front of a donkey and it will just follow the carrot because it's incentivized because it wants the carrot. And really what's going on in FIFA is that all of the FIFA community, all the players are donkeys, and they effectively, EA all the way through the year is putting carrots in front of them to get them to keep playing the game and keep spending money. Now let's just discount that. I don't think Star Citizen at all should try and incentivize things like loot boxes, things like that. That's not the point of this video. But what FIFA can do is FIFA can incentivize players to play bad, objectively bad gameplay in FIFA over and over again. And what we've not got in Star Citizen currently is any reason to replay the gameplay. Once you've done a mission, once you've had a go, great, that's it. But in FIFA, there's constantly things that you can earn, objectives that you can do, you can grind the game, and you can find ways to play. In Star Citizen, there are no carrots in sight. We are all poor donkeys looking around, lost in the universe, in the PU, looking for things to do. And once you've tried everything, you're just a sad donkey with no food, and you log off. And we see that every patch cycle, a new patch will come out, players will flock back into the game for a few months. You see it even on Twitch view numbers, things like that. People who are interested in the game, and yet after a few weeks, once they've checked out the new location, we'll see it interestingly with 3.14. We'll see people will go to Horizon, they'll try it out, and then they'll realise there are no carrots, there's nothing to do, and they'll just log off and wait for the next patch. Now, I believe that Star Citizen 100% needs bespoke missions, hand designed by designers. It needs org gameplay, it needs long, big events, things like Xena Threat. The Nine Tails lockdown that was recently mentioned is a good thing here, coming more regularly. It needs all of those things. It needs big, expansive things to do in the game. But, especially in the short term, I think it could massively benefit from short-term objectives. EA have mastered getting people to replay FIFA. They've absolutely nailed it. And the way they do this is often by just popping fairly generic rewards on top of gameplay. So they'll often use a new card that you can play for. And if you fulfill the certain objectives, then you can have this new card. Now, the objectives themselves are pretty generic, and ideally Star Citizen would not become some sort of just complete grind fest where you're just doing ridiculous fetch quests all over and again. Although you could argue maybe some people would enjoy that. But with FIFA, EA, it's so painful. They will get you to play the worst game mode. So there's a version of FIFA where you can play against the AI, against the computer. And it is, I think it's one of the worst experiences in gaming. It's so painful, it's so slow, there's no challenge, and it's just it's your classic paint drying experience. It's horrible. But yet, the FIFA community on a massive scale, will play through, and each game of FIFA, just to make you aware, can take up to about 20 minutes. They will play through multiple games against the computer just to unlock this player that they have been promised at the end. The pot at the end of the rainbow is this fun card that they'll get to play with. Again, I'm not suggesting that Star Citizen incentivizes horrible gameplay, the worst of the worst. I think Star Citizen is actually a lot better than that. The gameplay on the whole is really quite fun. But there is something to be said to use incentives to direct players to do things in game. Now, FIFA will release objectives on like a daily basis. They're not particularly interesting, you just get a bit of experience. But they'll do a weekly drop where there'll be more interesting things to play. And they also will have a season. So obviously a lot of games are doing seasons. In football or soccer, again, it kind of makes sense to have seasons where over the course of the season you gain experience, and at the end of the season you unlock things as you go. Now, I actually don't think that's good for Star Citizen at all. I think it wouldn't be immersive, our favourite word, and it wouldn't fit the game universe at all. My opinion is, and I'm sure this is what CIG are going to do, and we'll come on to that in a minute because there are some things that CIG are doing, but I'm sure they will use the reputation system and they'll use the mission givers to tie in some of these things in the future. In a minute, I want to talk about examples of what you could do in game in Star Citizen, but first let's just talk about the example that's already happened, the Vanduul Mask. If you weren't around, basically you had given a ship, everybody was given a Gladius, I believe, and you were told to go and kill 50 other players, not AI. You actually had to kill players with that ship. Now, a lot of people hated this because they didn't want to just be shot at by everybody, and I completely understand that. Some people cheated it where they just got a load of their friends and they just shot them, and it was done. But for me, I probably had the most fun I've had in Star Citizen maybe at any point. I played the game the most, definitely, in that month than I'd ever played before, because there was actually something to do, something to grind for. Now, it wasn't perfect because, for the reasons I said before, and also you had no idea how many kills you actually had, so it was complete guesswork until the mask just showed up in your inventory. But it shows that CIG are kind of thinking about this stuff anyway, and it shows that it is on their agenda to do. So let's get into some examples. What CIG could do as a very, very basic objective that you could grind over, say, a month, again, like the Vanduul Mask. All you'd have to do is say, one of the mission givers is saying, please kill 30 Crusader security in the next 30 days, and I will give you a component, a skin for a ship of paint, maybe a plant for your habitation that will eventually come online. Something like that. The actual rewards, CIG obviously will need to work out. I think, as a very, very basic example of something to grind for in game, for a carrot, that would work. And I would probably go into the game, and like the Vanduul Mask, I'd say, okay, I will do this. This will be fun. The gameplay itself isn't terrible. I'll enjoy doing it, and at the end of it, I will have this reward. That would be great. Obviously, the idea then is to keep not repeating the same objective, but tweaking it. So a different mission giver, maybe posing, going after pirates. Maybe you are trying to refine X amount of things per month, or maybe you're trying to mine, blah, blah, blah. The actual details of it are not important, but the point is that there can be quite basic things that can be done in game that will incentivize players to replay gameplay. Again, going back to FIFA, that's what EA have done so well. They'll get people to just replay and replay and replay because they want the rewards at the end of it. Not everybody has been to prison. Prison, I think, can be a horrible experience if you're just stuck there, but there are things to do in prison. And also you've got the escape route. One fairly straightforward mission would be, or kind of regular objective could be, that they pop a mission giver in prison, which I'm sure they've talked about in the past, and you get an item from the mission giver, and they ask you to smuggle it out, and you can smuggle it out of the escape route, and that would incentivize people to do the escape route. It's a piece of gameplay, it's a fun thing to do, but most people have either never done it, or they only do it when they need to do it, but it's actually quite fun. So why not incentivize people to do it? So you get your item, you go out through the escape route, then you have to organize someone to come and pick you up, and then you obviously, however they want to do it, you can then go and deposit the item that you smuggled out at a certain shady location on a moon, say, for instance. You've obviously got the option for the person who is picking you up. They might just kill you and take the smuggled item for themselves. There's all sorts of things that could make that mission interesting. But that's something that could be a regular objective that turns over every month. It's something different to smuggle. Again, it's not particularly interesting, but it is a reason to play that part of the game. One of the things they talked about is that they have the ability to track across servers ships being blown up. So I think the example they gave, 10 cutlasses, when they're all destroyed across all servers, across the whole game, all different people playing, then the event would end. It would trigger something that the event would end. So using that sort of logic that's in the game or coming into the game soon, why could not CIG, on, say they release the new objective on a Friday night, 8 PM, and at that point they have spawned let's say 100 consumables on a moon. They're within a 50-kilometer radius of a certain outpost, and so across all of the servers of Star Citizen there are only 100 of these, and obviously they'd be all spawned on each server, but they would disappear, I guess, when people harvested them. And it becomes a mad rush for people to get across that location and to hunt out these consumables, and then the first however many that pick them up, they get rewards. It's timed, it creates people kind of panicking, it creates people going to a certain location, and it creates an in-game mini event, let's say. It's pretty generic, again, it's just a fetch quest in some ways, but it's if you put a reward in it, I think that's the point that I'm saying with all this. If you pop a reward on anything, people will probably do it. And I think that's just what CIG need to do. Now, as I've said, it's really easy for me to just chuck ideas out there. I'm not a game developer. I don't really understand what it takes to make these things happen. The good news is that CIG on the roadmap do have a few items that hint that they are looking into this sort of thing. Ways to track our stats, things like that, ways to reward us, all that sort of thing. And so the hope is, and I think with that, as well as the fact that the Vanduul Mask has already happened, we can be hopeful that CIG is on their way to incentivizing us to play the game more and more. They are going to give us some carrots. The poor donkeys that we are going to be given reasons to play the game. So let's try and sum this up. Despite FIFA and Star Citizen having nothing in common on the surface, there are a few similarities, but what we can really learn from FIFA is that EA are masters of getting their player base to replay parts of the game. Now, Star Citizen, I just think, would really benefit from this in the short term at least. Whilst we wait for bigger and grander gameplay to come down the line, I think in the short term, the community, Star Citizen community, would be really well served if we had objectives to play. Regular things, weekly, monthly, I don't think daily. But I think if there was things to do that would give us unique rewards, I think the community would be much more engaged in actually playing the game rather than playing the forums or Reddit or buying spaceships. And obviously maybe CIG wants us to keep buying spaceships. But again, I think we can learn from EA. EA makes so much money. I think a lot of that is because people are constantly engaged in the game. And I think if we were actually more engaged in Star Citizen playing it, we'd probably spend more money. Don't spend more money, you don't need to. That's the summary for this one. If you like, this wasn't a normal sort of video from me, but if you like this sort of stuff, come and subscribe, give this video a like, and come and follow me on Twitch, where when I get to 100,000 Twitch followers, I'm going to get a tattoo of Chris Roberts' face on my foot. See you soon, bye.